All right, you made it, the final interview. That is a massive win. But let's be real, this is where the gloves come off. Today, we're diving into the advanced strategies you absolutely need to stand out from the pack and walk away with that offer. Okay, let's just let this number sink in for a second. At this point, you are not up against hundreds of people anymore. No, the company has whittled it down to the cream of the crop. We're talking you and maybe 3 to 5 other top-tier candidates. That's it. Think of it this way. This is basically the Olympics of job hunting. You've already proven you've got the skills to compete, but now you have to prove you're the one who deserves the gold medal. So the big question is, how do you actually win this thing? Here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this in 5 stages. First, understanding this high-stakes environment. Second, doing the right kind of homework. Third, being prepared, not rehearsed. There's a huge difference. Fourth, mastering behavioral questions with the STAR method. And finally, closing the deal like a pro. First up, the final gauntlet. Getting here means you've already crushed it, you've beaten out tons of other applicants. But the strategies that got you to this point, they're not going to be enough to win. Now, it's all about those advanced tactics that give you the edge. So let's move on to the absolute bedrock of a winning interview strategy, doing your homework. And I don't mean just a 5-minute skim of their website. This part is completely non-negotiable. Just think about it for a minute. How can you possibly walk in there and tell an interviewer you're passionate about the company if you don't truly get their goals, their vision, or the challenges they're actually up against? You can't. It just won't sound genuine. So what does deep research actually look like? Yeah, you start with the About section, but then you hit Google. Search for the company's name plus the words press releases. See what they're saying to the world. Figure out who their main competitors are. When you can talk intelligently about their vision and challenges, you signal that you are serious and you've invested real time. All right, now let's talk about how you actually sound in the room. There is a massive, and I mean massive, difference between being prepared and sounding rehearsed. It is a very fine line, and if you cross it, it can seriously cost you the job. Just look at this breakdown. When you're prepared, you sound confident, you're conversational, it feels natural. But when you're rehearsed, you come off as robotic and scripted. Trust me, if an interviewer asks you a question and you spit back a perfectly memorized paragraph instantly, it's a huge red flag. It doesn't sound real. So here's the key. Don't memorize a script word for word. Instead, practice talking through your key points. Try explaining a big accomplishment or your greatest strength in a few different ways. That way, when the pressure's on, the answer will flow naturally, like a real conversation. And that idea of natural conversation leads us right into our next big topic, how to handle behavioral questions. In a final round, you can bet you're going to get a ton of these. They're designed to figure out how you've handled things in the past, and you need a solid structure to answer them well. You know these questions. Tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult client, or describe a time a project didn't go as planned. The interviewer isn't just listening for a good story. They are digging for concrete evidence of your skills. The absolute best way to answer these is with the STAR method. It's a lifesaver. First, you set the situation. What was the context? Then, explain your task. What were you responsible for? Next, detail the action. What did you actually do? And you always finish with the result. What was the awesome outcome? And here's a pro tip for you. Don't just tell any random story. Be strategic. Choose examples where the actions you took and the results you got are directly tied to what you'd be doing in this job. Relevance is everything. Now, all this interview prep is fantastic, but it's totally useless if your application gets tossed before a human even sees it. And check out this crazy statistic. A whopping 75% of resumes are rejected by applicant tracking systems, those are the resume bots, before they ever land on a recruiter's desk. This is why having a perfectly formatted and optimized application is crucial from day one, which brings me to this explainer sponsor, mobilecv.ai. It's an AI tool specifically built to make sure your resume beats the bots. It uses professional latex templates, so the formatting is flawless, and it can even generate a tailored cover letter for the job. It just gives you that peace of mind that your documents are as professional as your interview answers are about to be. Okay, so let's get back in the interview room. Your amazing bot-beating resume got you the interview. Now it's time for maybe the most critical part, closing the deal. How you end the interview can be just as important as how you start it. You have to leave a powerful, lasting impression. So first things first, the absolute basic you must do is ask about the timeline. What are the next steps in their process? It shows you're organized, you're serious, and you're genuinely interested. But if you really want to make an impact, you need a power move, and here it is. You ask this exact question. If we were to come to an arrangement and you offered me the position, how do you see me fitting in and what could I expect to be working on over the next 6 months? This question is brilliant because it literally forces the interviewer to visualize you in the job. And here's the real genius behind that question. If they have any hidden doubts or reservations about you, their answer will almost always reveal them. It gives you one last golden opportunity to address those concerns right then and there before you walk out the door. So let's wrap up the final steps. You ask that powerful closing question to make them see you in the role. You ask about the next steps to show you're on top of it. And you always send a thank you letter later. These three things together will make you stand out. Look, you've made it this far for a reason. You're one of the best candidates they've seen. This final interview is your moment to prove you're the one. So as you prepare, just ask yourself this. What is the single powerful impression you want to leave them with? Go in with that clarity, and you'll be well on your way to hearing you're hired.